not necessarily those of Flagler Broadcasting staff, management, or advertisers.
This is Pierre Tristam, editor of Flagler Live, with your weekly reality check. The blitzkrieg of Donald Trump's furious, if not furious, opening days has salt-pillared his party and disappeared Democrats in concrete walls. There's no hierarchy of folly. No sooner does he order one monstrosity than he outdoes it with an atrocity. Let's take one, the proposal to ethnic cleanse Gaza of Palestinians, transfer them to Jordan, Egypt, and other Arab countries, and apparently annex Gaza to the United States and rezone it as the Riviera of the Middle East. Trump's grasp of the Middle East is roughly equivalent to that of a third grader at Old Kings Elementary. He knows the word middle, he might know the word east, but in all other respects he's very much east of Eden. He sees Gazans as so many more tenants to expel from one of his properties so he can build a hotel. He thinks of Arab countries as empty neighborhoods in Brooklyn and Queens, and Gaza as just another land without a people, for a Riviera without a dock. This is what the late Israeli terrorist Meir Kahane and settler terror cults like Gush Emunim and Hilltop Youth have been preaching for years. Kahane simply called for the removal of the Arabs in the land of Israel to their own Arab lands, in his words. Now, the President of the United States is normalizing a terrorist dream. Trump's pin-up hero Andrew Jackson did something similar while defying a Supreme Court order. He expelled most Native Americans from east of the Mississippi. Jackson's Indians are Trump's Palestinians. Working out the math, the crime, as all population transfers are under international law, would be the biggest population expulsion and land expropriation since Stalin's internal deportations and killing of 6 million Soviets in the 1930s and 1940s. The comparison can be applied in style and purpose to Israel, with its expulsions and ethnic cleansing of the late 1940s, 1967, and in regular wars since, but it's been on a different scale. Trump would Stalinize the cleansing. Gaza's population before Israel's latest raising was 2 million. One Israeli columnist called Trump's idea crazy, deranged, perverse, and unfeasible, and a crime against humanity on a historic scale. Until now, Israel has denied the Palestinians the right to exist, thus ensuring that flower child ideas like the two-state solution never had a chance. The solution was incinerated with the assassination of Ishaq Rabin in 1995 by an Israeli extremist, ceding the way to Palestinian extermination by 1,000 cuts and 700,000 colonists that Ariel Sharon and Benjamin Netanyahu enacted since. Now, Netanyahu has an American partner in his image. Expulsions and population transfers have been Americanized. So has the myth of non-existent Palestinian identity. They're all Arabs, after all, that mass of people between Persia and North Africa that all sound alike and look alike and are naturally interchangeable with Palestinians. American slave traders thought likewise of Africans, as did Abraham Lincoln, who had enthusiastically embraced black population transfers back to Africa. Trump's plan has zero chance of success, but like General Westmoreland's pacification of Vietnam, the second Bush's democratization of Iraq, or America's 20-year futility in Afghanistan, it will exact a catastrophic price if attempted. And Gaza is just a template of what's ahead for us here, as this unwell man denies human beings their identity, ignores the law, and reduces policy to pop-up books. This is Pierre Tristam, editor of Flagler Live, your 24-hour online news source. Thanks for listening.
Kind of ease into free-for-all Friday today. Happy Valentine's.
Happy Valentine's.
Yeah, Lauren Johnston and Jason DiLorenzo.
Morning.
Carl Cody.
Morning.
All right. You got big plans for tonight? Actually, thanks for reminding me this morning, by the way, when you came in.
Yes, no problem. I don't have big plans. We're going to have a nice family night at home.
Okay, well, that's good. You know, all the pressure on, oh my God, what are you going to do, Brian? You got to...
I have big plans.
Do you? Is your wife included?
She is, of course, and she's not listening right now. I'm almost positive, so I can tell you this, but I'm so excited about this. I bought 2 red straws, like plastic straws, that go up and make a heart out of them. So we're going to go to dinner, and I'm going to plop one of those in her drink, and I'm going to plop one in my drink, and it's going to be just the most romantic moment of the day. So you can write that down if anybody wants that as a tip, but they're at Target for like $3.
Now you're going to go to the restaurant, and she's going to see everybody else with one.
That could be. Then we would know how many people listen to Free for All Friday.
That we're out of ideas. Yeah. Carl Cody, good to have you with us, our Director of Stormwater and Engineering in Flagler County. Good to have you.
Yes.
It's been a while. Swing that microphone right up to you there. Closer you are, better you'll sound. And so we're going to be talking about us, utilities, the reality of life, and water and sewer and stormwater and your bill and all that kind of stuff. Jason DiLorenzo is our Chief of Staff for the City of Palm Coast, which means you got a lot of responsibilities, and so good to have you here as well.
Thank you.
And Laura Johnson, of course, is like, would they ever get a city manager? Get me off the hook here.
Either way, I'm happy to help, David. You know that.
You are so cool about it. And you do such a great job. So I'm proud of you.
Hey,
And,
it takes teamwork. I mean, City Council's driving some really good policies, and we're trying to work really hard for the residents.
So the reality is, we need to do something on our utilities, and it's in 3 categories, right, Carl? It's water. I call it sewer. You call it wastewater, but same thing, kind of, right? Is that?
Yes.
And stormwater, right? So that's 3 different inputs, outputs of the utility system that we all got to pay for.
Well, stormwater is a separate case. Utility that we're talking about today is our water and our wastewater, which also includes our reclaimed water, which we do have out there for some residents for irrigation.
Mm-hmm. So you're doing your best, and if people, you can watch the city council meetings and the workshop meetings and the public hearings on YouTube. By the way, I'm supposed to be promoting that we are live on YouTube TV right now, streaming, and we're also.
Should we wait?
Wave at your camera.
Be careful. There's hand motions that mess things up.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-oh.
Somebody, if you go
These are
like, I'm not
special.
going to do it, but if you go, like how when you zoom in on your phone, if you move your fingers like that in front of this camera, it will zoom in on your face big time. So
Nostril cam.
yeah.
So can I interject one thing since we got derailed already on that? But I mentioned something about, I was talking to somebody recently, and Jason DiLorenzo came up. I was talking to somebody else recently about, and Carl Cody came up because of all the things that are happening in the city. And these 2 people that I talked to, who have been around for a long time, and I won't mention their names because I didn't get their permission, but they both said how impressed they were, and the word talent came up. And I think that that's something you don't hear a lot. You think about talent as sort of like artistic talent or like sports talent, but there's also organizational talent, and there's like leadership talent. And I just want to say that you both had some high praise from people who know in the community recently, and I thought that was interesting, because I think the community, it's very easy to go to these city council meetings and hear things like, people kind of wag their fingers and say like, oh, I hope that didn't do anything, but people kind of wag their fingers and like, my taxes pay your salary kind of approach. And that's part of the deal. But I feel like getting to know everybody in the city's staff, and, including Lauren, of course, that we have people who know what they're doing in city staff. And I think that that's something that the residents hopefully feel confident with. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Lauren Johnston.
Yeah, I definitely agree. There's great leadership within the staff of our organization, and a lot of things are done behind the scenes. Carl, you might not know this, but Carl is so good with numbers. I mean, we have a gigantic capital improvement plan that he's overseen for a big majority of his career in this city. And these projects are very important to the overall success of our community. And the way that he can put the budgets together, make sure that we are spending the allocated amounts, but also make sure they come in under budget, on time, etc. And then Jason, his skills for how we can work in our community with different types of development, different types of code. And I think one of Jason's best traits is how he can relate back to people. He might not have the right answer for you, but he can help you understand where the answer is and why. And so many other great leaders in our organization.
We're still the media, so we're still going to be paying close attention. We're the watchdogs. But anyway, I just want to pass that praise along as well.
All right, let's dig into this here. All right, I invited you in. Thank you for all coming in, by the way, because people are just, I talk to people that they don't really pay attention to the news. They don't subscribe to the Observer, and they hear little bits or whatever at work and things. But they're like, what? We're going to have a utility rate increase, and my water bill is going to go up. It's all ready. And so this is a good time to really understand what the reality is in the city of Palm Coast in providing for you and your neighbors and who's here right now and who's coming here. So my question, and jump in to answer it, are we in trouble right now with, let's talk first of all with sewer capacity, because that seems to be the big thing. People remember when the storm was here and and the sewer plants were ready to blow because it was over, and then we got zapped with a state kind of a DEP thing like, hey, Palm Coast, you better get your together because it's something's got to be done. Is that pretty accurate?
Yeah. Let me just take a step back before we get there, David, is why are we doing this, right? Why are we at this point? And I want to go back to our National Community Survey results that our residents took last year. And they rated us on 41% of quality that they thought our utility was. 41%. And they rated us in importance 93%. That is a huge gap between what is quality and what is important. And that's why we're here, right? The residents want us to put together a plan of fixing our infrastructure. And that's why we're here. And then I'll let Jason kind of talk about the capacity at Wastewater Treatment Plant 1.
Are we in trouble?
Yes and no, and more yes than no. All right, so we have 2 wastewater treatment plants. Wastewater treatment plant 1 is our original one. It's on Utility Drive, and it has a capacity of 6.83 million gallons per day. That's what we are permitted by the DEP to pass through the plant. We also have a second plant, a wastewater treatment plant 2. It's on PV grade, which is off of US 1. It's a 2 million gallon per day system with an upgrade that's going to be completed in March or April, with an additional 2 million gallons. So if you think of it from system-wide, we are okay. The problem is that our system is not completely interconnected, and we can only have so much of that flow go to Plant 2 because of how the city was built out, right? We inherited this system from ITT. It was built a particular way. To date, we've been able to change flows of 300,000 gallons to Plant 2. We have 2 more phases of that. We're going to move another 550 gallons to Plant 2 once the upgrade is done.
550,000.
550,000, right. But at Plant 1, we have about 300,000 gallons of capacity remaining right now. And for a city of our with our growth rate, that is roughly a year, maybe even a little bit less than a year. So until we start to move flows over, we will catch a little bit of a gap, but it's not enough to sustain us. Maybe even until the new plant is completed, because the upgrade of wastewater treatment plant 1 is expected to be done in late 2028. So we may have a gap there still. So the answer is system wide, we're kind of okay, but for the amount of flow that goes to plant 1, which we have little ability to change beyond the additional 550, we are in trouble.
At the workshop that was Tuesday, right, this week?
Yes.
And you can watch it on YouTube, and it's there, which is a great resource. Inflation, everybody gets it, everybody feels it in every which way. And you got to really feel for the people that are on fixed incomes because they're kind of trapped. I mean, if they're retired and they're living on just their Social Security, and for whatever reasons in life, they didn't really get to prepare for their retirement, that's the reality that they live with. And they moved here to Palm Coast to live their life. And it was very affordable. And not just living in Palm Coast, but anywhere. It's getting more and more expensive with it. So every little thing gets a lot of emotional, kickback to it. Like, oh my God, So let's talk about the reality of us here, because you guys have the hundreds of millions of dollars of price tags on what we need to do. And you came up with 3 options, right, that we can do. So basically, we got to do something, and it's not just going to happen, and we can't wait for the state or somebody to drop all this money on us, so we have to go over it. So what's the nut that we need to come up with to get this going? Carl, you're the numbers guy.
Yeah. We worked with our city financial consultant and our rate consultant, going through various options and best ways to move forward that are going to have the least impact on the residents, in terms of the rate impact. And what was presented and recommended to council was a phase-in of rates over the next 4 years, and it would be 4 8% increments. So it would be 8% in April, 8% in October, and then the 2 following Octobers would be 8% as well. And then from there, we'd move on to just your regular consumer price index, inflation annual adjustment.
So everybody can expect their utility bill to go up no matter what.
Yes, that'd be across the board for all parts of the bill and all customers.
All right.
You mentioned being on Social Security, right? And then there's Social Security members normally get an annual CPI. One of the things that why this doesn't align well with CPI is that we've analyzed the cost of construction, and the cost of construction is outpacing CPI by what, Carl?
It's like double or more.
Right. So you're right. It makes it really difficult for our residents that are on a limited income. But we're up against it. That's just the cost of what stuff costs now to build.
How do we rank with other cities comparable to us around the state as far as, cost of living and utility bills that somebody might get in what would be some comparable cities?
Oh, well, how about we start with that we have the lowest millage rate, right? We are very unique in that situation that our millage rate is only 4.18. And the city council the past couple of years has continued to lower the millage rate. We have the lowest millage rate in the county between all of the other cities. And I believed if you compare our utilities to other communities just here locally, we're still lower than Flagler Beach or Bunnell. And, there's other additional taxes that Flagler Beach has that the city doesn't have, right? They have a utility tax on top of their utility bill. And that's one thing that Palm Coast does not have.
So we've been doing pretty good in getting away with murder as far as on the other tax end. We've been living pretty cheap.
Yeah, I think you can attribute that to the additional residents that have moved here within the last couple of years has helped the tax base by us being able to lower the tax rate and still provide the same level of service. It's because more people have moved here to share that burden.
But we haven't. When it comes to utilities, we haven't really been getting away with anything because we're almost to capacity. We got dinged with the state saying, you have to do something. We're getting fined right now by the state, right? And so, I don't know. It just seems like something you can't really ignore.
Well, I hate the kick the can thing, but the 3 options coming up, because we have to take action pretty quick on this, right? This is not something to put off till next election cycle or something like that. We got to deal with it right now. So the 3 phased in rate increases you're talking about, what would the timeline on those be and what would it feel like?
Well, I think as Carl mentioned, the first one would start in April. And the reason why we're trying to move quickly is because we need to start construction on wastewater treatment plant 1. And we need to go out for a bond for construction of that project.
Okay.
The capacity at 1 is 6.83 million gallons a day. What would the expansion get it to?
10.83 million gallons per day.
Gotcha.
So all these expansions and capacity increases, that would put us in pretty good shape for how long? And do we have right now for the developments already approved? Do we have that built into what the capacity, right? We didn't overpromise developers or builders that, oh yeah, we can handle that when we really couldn't, but that's kind of an unknown thing right now.
Yeah. Yes and no. Yes, we have what we'd call paper capacity, and we are over capacity if you consider that paper capacity. But it's not straightforward because the paper might include a subdivision of a couple hundred units, but they don't come on at one time, right? They come on one house at a time. So the number, if you count them in totality, would put us over capacity. But when they start actually flowing, then that reserved capacity or committed capacity falls off of that table because you're just dealing with that one house at that point, as they come on.
So is that a mistake? Was that an error from the city to promise that on paper, even though it would have put us over capacity?
Maybe, Jason, you can explain, even as ITT master plan the community, you're over committed paper capacity just in current ITT lots.
Always, right? Just think about it that way, right?
Okay.
In 1970, ITT, platted 45,000 lots and had a wastewater treatment plant for 330,000 gallons, right?
So we have 7,000 or 8,000 undeveloped lots in the traditional IT in the W section. All those,
Sure.
they're still there. If they all were built tomorrow, then we would be over capacity too.
Yes.
Okay.
That's
Gotcha.
true. Yeah. So what you're trying to do is time the capacity, right? Because you also want to time it with those future residents, so they are paying that for that benefit, and not you got to time it up as best you can. I would say we are late. You'll remember that we brought a potential rate increase to City Council in November of 23. So we're behind.
How do you hear people say, why should we've lived here in Palm Coast, why do we have to pay for the sewer and water of people that haven't moved here yet?
It's a good question. A big chunk of what we need is to actually maintain the current system. But it's just how it works, right? Someone has to pay for it.
And we do charge impact fees, and developers do pay a cost when they come in, but you can't wait till you collect all the money and then build the expansion. They need it beforehand. So you'd build up some dollars to help contribute towards those expansion plans, but then you're overbuilding for those future residents who will contribute towards the use of that
And
plan.
can I go back to the timing, right? So let's just go back in time a little bit. So we did a rate analysis in 2018, and it had a growth projection in there, a stable growth projection of like 3 to 4%, right? But nobody predicted COVID, right? And nobody predicted the growth impacts to Florida from COVID, and nobody predicted the cost increases or supply chain issues from COVID, right? It was unpredictable. So when we're trying to time these things, we looked at 2022's numbers that were way different than 2019, and we looked at the increase in 2021, and then city staff actually brought forward the rate to look at, we need to expand here in 2022. And even that was controversial of doing the rate analysis in 2022. But it didn't come back to city council until 2023. They didn't approve it in 2024. And here we are back in 2025. So we've been trying to do our part in managing the timing of growth and development.
So the costs have gone up, and that was unpredictable. But looking back, is it safe to say that we did not charge enough for the impact of new residents coming in?
They're always lagging, right?
The timing of the payments, yes.
Yeah.
But what is development paying for itself, or is it not?
You also have to consider a lot of this is garnered by state statute, right? There is a limitation that we can only go and raise impact fees on at minimum 4-year cycle, right, Carl? I just wanted to confirm that. And so we did that. It was 4 years. It was reevaluated, and council approved that last year.
So Teresa Pontieri on the city council asked, are we at that point where we have such extreme circumstances? I forget what the exact term is in the law, but you can only raise them so much so fast unless you have extraordinary circumstances. And should we be doing that? Do we have extraordinary circumstances? I know it was mentioned at the city council, and I'm trying to remember what the answer was to that.
So we last week we met with our consultants, because we're also reviewing park and fire impact fees right now. And we had a conversation around that, and they're going to look into it, but there's currently no case law around it. So
Nobody has challenged that around the state.
No.
Huh.
And so, and I
Seems
think
surprising.
people are there, you have to be able to, again, the impact fee law is not in the city's favor. It's not in the citizens' favor. It's in the developer's favor, and you have to be able to defend that. The city is responsible for defending it. It's not that the developer has to prove why your fee is too much. You have to defend your fee. And so the legal questions around extraordinary circumstance are not really defined yet. So people are a little bit nervous about it. But we did have a conversation about it. And, yes, maybe that is a possibility, but we have to make sure it's legally defensible.
What are we looking at for the average homeowner here? And also, got to remind everybody, look at your water bill, as you call it. There's a lot of things on there more
Utility
than
bill.
water. Your
Trash
utility bill
is on there.
But even on my notes to pay it says water bill, but I'll change it for you, saying utility bill. But you look everything on it. It's your trash. It's the storm water. It's water. It's sewer. It's and there's a fee or something on there. Whatever is it? But so what's all on a utility bill in Palm Coast?
Sure, it is. There are base fees for just the connection and having the equipment, and then there's usage for water and sewer. Some people have irrigation meters, so they're only charged for the water coming out, but they're not charged for the sewer of that usage. And then, yes, David, there are stormwater fees on there, and then trash is on there as well.
And what is the average bill in numbers guy? Carl Cody, what's the average bill in the city of Palm Coast for an average resident?
Well, we did break it up into two because you have more of maybe a smaller home, two-person home, and we have that at 2,500 gallons, and then we have maybe a pocket of residents that are a larger home, a family home, roughly around 4,000 gallons a month. And the current bills now for the smaller home is about $73, and for the larger ones about $90. So at the end of the increases, the smaller home will see a $30 a month increase by October 1st of 2028. And then the larger home will see roughly a $37 increase a month by 2028.
So that's substantial for a lot of people.
That's when it's fully burdened all the way out to October of 2028, so the 28-29 fiscal year.
Also on there is trash with FCC, and their contract with the city calls for inflationary adjustments every year, right?
Correct.
And so when are they due to throw their new number out there to us for what the trash pickup increase will be?
We have a 7-year contract with FCC, and it is on a CPI increase. So their new number would only be towards the CPI.
Which would be, can they announce every year? They have to wait 7 years or what?
No, we send notices out in the utility bills about what the increases will be. And also the stormwater rate is on also an index.
Okay. So all those could be going up, right?
I'm sure they will, right?
Yeah.
Probably a few percent each.
Yeah. And again, Palm Coast is different for how we have trash service, right? Just consider there's no landfill here in Flagler County. So when we're going and hauling our trash, it's going all the way to Daytona. So up and down I-95, lots of times a day. Think about gas, diesel prices, staff time to go down there, pick up the service. So, when you're trying to compare Palm Coast to maybe New Smyrna or Daytona, well, it's a lot closer to get to the landfill than it is in Palm Coast.
What's it take to start a landfill?
Yeah,
Maybe, Brian, how about you
let's
and me?
let's start a movement to have a landfill in Palm Coast.
Why don't we? We're a growing city.
We had a landfill.
Old Kings Road, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The county closed the landfill.
Oh,
About
okay. Well, can we
20
get
years ago.
Well,
No, there's still hazardous waste collection there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why can't we go West County and put in a landfill?
We needed
Sounds like a good opportunity for somebody.
We needed the space for the radio-controlled airplanes to fly.
Oh, is that where that was?
Yeah, it's right by there.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, anyway, that's going to be going up too. So people going, okay, well, my God, how can I'm trying to plan a family budget here, and so what number? Trash, the water, the sewer, the storm water, all that kind of stuff. What should they say? It's going to go up. Just plan on an extra $50 a month for everything. Is that Carl? You're the numbers dude.
well into the future, but
Yeah,
not
pro-
In 2028, it might be
in
50
April.
bucks.
yeah. By that 2028 time, it'd probably be $50 a month for everything included.
And everything else too with it. So, all right. All right. Well, hey, we got to take a break. We'll be back. We're talking about your utility bill. And we've got the city of Palm Coast in here. We have Lauren Johnson, our acting city manager, Jason DiLorenzo, Palm Coast chief of staff, Carl Cody. He is our director of stormwater and engineering. And we're just trying to get everybody to understand what we're up against. There will be some public hearings coming up on this where you'll get a voice in it. And we'll talk about all that when we return on Free for All Friday.
Tired of chasing down rent or fixing that leaky sink at 2 a.m.? Let Serenity Realty Group handle it so you can sit back, relax, and maybe take up a new hobby. Call Serenity Realty Group Property Management at 386-221-2255 today. Serenity Realty Group, peace of mind, one property at a time.
Are you wondering if that old paint in your garage is still any good?
Bring it in. We'll let you know.
And while you're at it, if you need to match a color,
Chip off some paint and bring it in.
our color matching is unmatched.
Benjamin Moore, corner of Old Kings and Utility Drive.
Palm Coast.
So Ashley Stover is a miracle worker. She sold my property, which could have been a problem for me, and had it under contract within 2 weeks. Definitely would recommend Ashley Stover again.
Hi, it's Ashley Stover, your go-to home girl at Florida Homes Realty and Mortgage. Call me today, 386-864-1951, or find me online at ashleysellsfhrm.com.
Happy Valentine. If you're watching us live, we stream live now with YouTube TV and WNZF Facebook and broadcast over the radio and streaming on our app. Forgot about so many different ways to stay informed on what's happening with what's going on here in Flagler County. We have a lot of people out of state, by the way, that tune in, and I think they have property here. I don't know why they're listening, but thank you, wherever you are. Well, we'll take
I know why they're listening, because it's so informative and entertaining at the same time.
All right. Well, hey, we'll take every listener we can, or viewer we can possibly get. We're talking about the rate impending. You know, they've got to happen, just like everything in life here. It's probably costing us a lot more because we have been delaying it, right, Jason?
Yes.
Yeah, like a lot more.
Yeah.
How much has it cost us since we could have taken action a couple of years ago? It was proposed, right? So how much did that cost us, that delay?
Well,
Carl?
Well, you kind of have an answer, I think, right?
I mean, the project changed slightly. As you know, a couple years ago, we knew we were moving forward, so we started the process in terms of doing a study and analysis and what can we fit on the existing plant site. And, you know, so the project increased in size slightly from before. So I think cost went up like 25%, you know.
25%?
Roughly, because we got further into design. Because, you know, this isn't a brand new plant. We're modifying the existing plant. So, you know, I know we talked a lot today about capacity and expansion related stuff, but we have old stuff too. That plant one is over 50 years old.
Yeah, 1979, I think, was the...
Right.
Wait,
71.
71, okay.
And so we have to meet some regulatory requirements. So over time, you know, we get more and more regulatory requirements we have to comply with, how we discharge our wastewater, how we treat the water. So that plant is outdated, and we need to bring it up to current requirements or upcoming impeding requirements. So we have in that cost to convert that plant over and rehab it, old electrical, pump motors, headworks, you know, just the processing of the facility there. And the same is true for our water plant. We have our water plant one where we have to go in and, you know, we hear water quality issues from residents, and, you know, what can we do there to help with odor, color, and, you know, we've done an analysis. That was another thing. We did, you know, a whole sustainability assessment on the facility and said, you know, how much life does this facility have? So they identified that, yes, you know, this facility is in decent condition, but it needs a lot, you know, needs rehab. You know, it's old and it needs to be rehabbed. The water process either needs to be upgraded and converted, or a lot of the components need to be rebuilt and restructured. So, we have a lot of R&R, as well as
which is repair and something.
Rehab and renewal.
Okay.
Renovation and rehabilitation.
Not rest and relaxation or anything.
No, opposite. Yeah.
So and that has nothing to do with necessarily more homes.
Correct.
That's just that it's old. So
that plant was built in 1973.
Yeah. So basically, if you moved here since 1973, then you are quote unquote part of the problem. Why that's been used so much, right? So chipping in for making that in a better shape is sort of, in that sense, it would be expected. It's a matter of expanding from 6.83 to 10.83 million gallons a day. That's what I think. If people have a gripe about why are we having to pay for that, that's what would be under consideration, right?
And there was some discussion at the workshop on Tuesday about, we get it, wastewater treatment plant 1, we need the first series of bond to cover that project, right? But, there are impeding water challenges as well that I was trying to, educate the city council on. And to Carl's point, water treatment plant 1 is one of those facilities that we want to make sure we're modernizing the technology there of how we process the water. The lime softening system doesn't help with, as Carl mentioned, water color and smell. And so by looking into different pilot studies and then those effects, water is very, very regulated. So we want to make sure we're giving the cleanest, the best tasting, the beautiful, all of the above for the service of our water.
So what is the 25% increase? How much money are we talking about?
We didn't, because we're not comparing apples to apples. The original project is expanded and modified. So it has gone up numerous times. I think when we first looked at it, it was, it was a much smaller project. It was just a small expansion to the plant. Then we realized we could do a much bigger expansion, and we also need to convert. So then the third component is we need to convert the existing plant over to AWT, Advanced Waste Treatment. So it's hard for me to put a factor on that original small expansion. How much did that go up? I don't know if I could pinpoint that exact number. We just know we've been looking at it comprehensively as a bigger picture.
But the cost of construction going up 7 or 8%, that is in the past couple of years. So it probably went up 15% in a couple of years. Is that about right for the overall construction cost?
Right, because we work with construction managers in the city on multiple projects, and like our fire station designs, we started those several years back, and early on in the process, when they factor in, that was a 15% number was a number they used for like 2 years out of what potential cost increases could be. So that's a good number.
Okay.
So this isn't all on our backs, of the residents of Palm Coast, for these hundreds of millions of dollars we need for utilities. It's there's bonds that can be sold, investors. Utility bonds are always considered a good, safe investment. And people from around the world invest in them, which benefits us here. There's also grants, right, that we can apply for. What kind of grant? Who would give grant money out for our problems?
We currently are working, or we currently have been awarded, I believe, 7 grants through Florida Department of Emergency Management. They have a grant program called HMGP, which is Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. And that is helping with our existing infrastructure of manhole covers, hardening those manhole covers so there's not infiltration into the system. And then we've been successful for grants, those same type of grants for getting generators for not only the well sites, but also the lift station. So that means when we do have a rain event, a hurricane, what have you, and we lose power, then we're still able to provide service for water and wastewater.
And then, of course, we go to the state legislature, hat in hand, like, please, please help us out with our utility shortfall here, right? And you go and you guys, everybody does it. You go to Tallahassee, you make a sales pitch, you schmooze around, right? Jason, you've done that. You're smiling.
Yeah.
Okay.
So last year we requested $35 million for the wastewater treatment plant 1 project.
Well, that's great.
and 1 million made it into the budget.
Okay, sorry.
But we are right. Speaker Renner helped us at least get 1 million into the budget, but the governor vetoed that $1 million, so none of it made it back to us.
So, well, here I've got a guy. I've got a guy that can help us right now on the phone. Right, Senator Randy Fine. Good morning, Randy.
Good morning. How are you?
All right. Hey, we're didn't want to catch you off guard, but we're live. I've got our acting city manager, Lauren Johnson, for the city of Palm Coast in the studio. Say good morning.
Good morning, sir.
And also I've got Jason DiLorenzo, our Palm Coast chief of staff.
Good morning, sir. I look forward to meeting you.
Good morning. Me too.
And Carl Cody, the numbers guy, director of stormwater engineering and everything. So no, I'm not really, but we're talking about how utilities, infrastructure, and what we're facing here in Palm Coast. I would imagine in the Senate, you're hearing from everybody statewide on those problems, right?
Sure. No, actually, I've worked on this for the past 8 years, and it's a challenge. I'm going to be honest. Cities come to Tallahassee, and they talk a lot about home rule. They say, we want to be in charge. Leave us alone. And then they come to Tallahassee and they say, we want to be in charge, but give us money. And it's a delicate balancing act. But I understand, our wastewater systems, many of them haven't. I don't know about Palm Coast, but many of them have not been properly maintained. And so when it rains, they get overloaded and then sewage gets dumped. It's been a huge problem up and down the east coast of Florida. And so I actually have gotten hundreds of millions of dollars in typically matching funding for when local governments want to make those improvements. And the other thing we've done is we have changed the penalties for when sewage gets dumped to make sure local governments are spending more money on that and less money on some of the other things that may not be as important, but might look good in the newspaper and might be more fun. It's typically not that much fun to improve manhole covers. You don't get to do a press conference and people don't come out and cut ribbons. But that's really what local government ought to be working on, first and foremost, protecting our water and our natural resources.
Well, you're top of the list to be our new congressman here in Flagler County, and you're still in the election, and you won the primary, and then all the polls and everything said, yeah, Randy Fine's going to be the next congressman here, even though you do have competition, and not to take that lightly. What do you think? Have you talked to President Trump since he said he wanted you to be his guy here?
Well, I don't. By the way, first I should start by thanking Flagler County. I believe I got 88% of the vote in Flagler in the primary. By the way, that's a historic amount for an open seat, multi-candidate primary. There were 3 people running. You don't normally get to say you beat the second place guy by 70%. And what I have told the White House is that is a testament to President Trump, because they weren't voting for me. They were, but what they were really voting for was President Trump's guy. So I was at the White House last week. We were celebrating the results of the primary, and the president's fired up and ready to go.
Is there, we're hearing how they want to help, the Trump administration wants to kibosh the Department of Education and start turning a lot of money back to the states. Is there a chance that in the Department of Environmental Protection and all those kind of things that Florida may get more of the federal money to use as we think, rather than being controlled by Washington?
Well, I think it's multiple things. It's not just about money. It's about regulation. Like sometimes the regulations that the federal government wants for the environment aren't actually good for the environment. So like there are projects that we want to do that will help the environment that we can't do because the federal government won't let us. It's sometimes they're the Department of Environmental Harming. And so I don't know what's going to end up happening there, but I do know Lee Zeldin, the new administrator of the EPA, and I know he is very, very focused on making sure they are helpful to our cause of improving the environment, not hurtful.
So let me ask our city folks here right now, does it cost, are the environmental regulations, Carl, you're the engineer, are they in line, or are there some crazy ones that cost us a lot more money and time?
We haven't encountered many ones that have driven up huge costs. It's more time going through both processes.
Right.
Takes a lot of time.
Okay.
Have you? It's Randy. So what pops into my mind is, I don't know if you guys are doing this, but like dredging projects are oftentimes, they get like delayed forever. And by the way, what you're trying to do is you're trying to dredge the bad stuff out of canals and waterways, but they get held up for years waiting for the federal government. That's what popped into my mind when you asked that question. I don't know if you guys have experienced that.
Well, we are. Dredging is something, right, Lauren? That
no, but have you been held up by the federal government in trying to do the projects?
We haven't, because we haven't dredged.
Okay,
It's
well,
a
there you
current city council priority to develop a plan, and so we're trying to look through different permitting and what have you, but we have not dredged the canals.
Yeah. Hey, that's the one. There's been a lot of that in Brevard County. A lot. They put a big priority on dredging, and it can take years to get a permit from the EPA to do something that theoretically is supposed to help the environment. So that's what I'm thinking about.
Senator, you were on kind of high profile just in session this week on your immigration kind of reform, whatever, for Florida. Give us a quick overview on where we're at with that.
Well, sure. This week we passed the strongest anti-illegal immigration bill in the history of the country. In fact, I was proud to be one of the two sponsors in the Senate. I was asked to do that in part because of my relationship with President Trump and the importance he's placed on illegal immigration. And look, what we're saying is, if you're a criminal illegal immigrant in the state of Florida, we're going to round you up and we're going to send you home.
And you got pushback for that.
We didn't get so much pushback this week. Look, there was some fighting between the governor and the legislature, and we can talk about that if you want. Most of the pushback we got was from Democrats, who are fine with illegal immigrants, and they don't want to send them home. In fact, they want to bring them in. So that was the pushback that we got, was mostly for people who aren't serious about fighting illegal immigration.
But available labor force for a lot of things that we need immigrants for here in Florida, would it negatively affect that?
Well, this bill focuses on criminal illegal immigrants. So people who have broken the law, who break the law. What I will say is, I'm not anti-immigration. I'm a huge advocate of immigration, but we want legal immigration. Remember, when people employ illegal immigrants, those people aren't paying income taxes because they can't. Those people aren't paying Social Security because they can't. Those people don't have health insurance because they can't. If they get hurt on the job, guess who's paying for it? You are. So an economy that is built on illegal immigrants getting paid under the table, that is not a sustainable future for the state of Florida. As opposed to bringing in new legal immigrants who come through the border, invited by us, who are vetted, and then can help the economy. That's a good thing.
What are your priorities? And then we got to get going here. We just had you on for a short time today, but we'll get you back in here. Hey, when you're up in Flagler County, let me know. So we'd like to have you in the studio. But so what are your top priorities with the legislative session?
The one coming up with the legislature? Well, I'm going to be leaving March 31st. So I'll be leaving in the middle of session. And so that sort of impinges on my ability to be super effective. But I am focused on infrastructure improvements, on water improvements, and just helping get the budget for the state in shape before I leave. Those are really my priorities.
All right, very good. Well, thank you for your service in the Senate, and then after Election Day, we'll thank you for being our new congressman.
Well, let's win first. The election's April 1st. It's not an April Fool's joke. There's really going to be an election on April 1st.
All right. Anybody else have anything for Senator Fine?
Yes, Senator. This is Jason. We have a member project in with Congressman Waltz's office right now, and we'd love to talk to you about that once you're elected.
That sounds good. That'll be my job, is to go out and fight for people, and I've proven I'm pretty good at it in the time I've spent in the legislature, so I'm excited about getting to it when I get to Washington, and I'm happy to help.
All right, Senator Randy Fine, have a great Valentine's, have a good weekend, and thanks for taking time for us.
Take care, guys.
All right, you too. All right, yeah, that's right. He's going to be bailing out halfway through the session here, if, I guess, right?
He has a Democratic opponent, Josh. I can't remember how to pronounce the last name. Is it Wheeler?
I know. We got to talk to him.
Well,
we got to get him on here anyway. All right. So here we are back to. I was hoping maybe I could get him to say, "Yeah, what do you guys need there? We'll make it happen." He's on Appropriations Committee, which is a powerful thing. But there seems to be Palm Coast and everybody was disappointed in what we got for the ask for the utilities, right? You got $1 million, and everybody's like, well, that's a lot of money, but it really isn't anymore in that world of utilities and things. The presentation, I think it was $700 and some million is the big over time number, right? Carl,
yes,
it's not that much time.
5 year.
So we got to come up with $700 million, but some of the bonding would pay for part of that, right?
Yeah, the bonding pays for a good portion of it, like 65%.
So let me ask you this, okay? As my investment advisor here, Carl. So
we can't have insider trading.
So, but people buy bonds. The city of Palm Coast is rated, right, for a bond. You have a credit rating, and we have a good rating.
Yes, we have a good rating.
Okay, so it means it's a low risk thing. That if Palm Coast says they need millions of dollars, I'll buy the bond. Then it's your investment. Can people buy just like and say, hey, I want to buy those utility bonds for Palm Coast, or is it part of a? How do you go about that? If somebody would say, all right, I want to, since I've got to pay for this, let me invest in some of those bonds.
Yeah, that's done by, we have a bond consultant that actually goes out and advertises and obtains those bonds for the city. So that's something that they specialize in specifically, but I don't know how you do it, but they're public bonds. I'm sure you can.
So if someone wanted to buy $100 million of those bonds and just get the
sure.
You want to do that, David? We can go in together.
Yeah, we'll call Carl. He's the numbers guy. He'll make it work. Okay. All right, we got to wrap it up. We're going to come back here. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll take a final break, and we'll be back. We'll play Brian's commercial here.
Oh, I love this commercial.
And we're going to wrap it up and leave you with some thoughts and realize the fact that we all got to suck it up and do what's right for Palm Coast. We'll be back.
Craig Flagler Palm Funeral Home and Flagler Memorial Gardens creates unique personalized funeral or cremation memorials, has flexible chapel space for small to large capacity needs, a veteran cemetery section, as well as sections for a variety of faiths. Online at dignitymemorial.com.
Hi folks, Bill Gallagher with SolarFit here. Have you ever thought about utilizing solar power for your home or business? Well, there's never been a better time to plug into the sun and stop renting electricity. How would you like to let your roof start paying you each month? Give us a call at 445-7606. That's 445-7606. Or visit us at solarfit.com and set yourself free.
SolarFit your life and set yourself free with the sun's free energy.
Free Observer newspapers on every driveway in town. That's our goal. Hi, this is Brian McMillan, Observer Publisher. We want to throw a free Observer newspaper on your driveway every Thursday so you can stay connected to your community. But you have to sign up now. For a limited time, get 3 free months of driveway delivery. Go to observerlocalnews.com/subscribe and use the coupon code 3FREE. No strings attached. Just go to observerlocalnews.com/subscribe and use the coupon code 3FREE.
3 free. All right, Brian, good job.
There's also a QR code on the bottom of the front page if you want to do it that way.
Okay. That'll be an extra charge for the tag there. Thank you all for what you're doing. You know, when you opened up today's show, thanking the city staff for everything that they do and how hard they work, and a lot of times I feel sorry for them. They get abused, and particularly when it wasn't their fault, and everybody just kind of sits there. And Lauren, you get it, and Carl, you get it, and Jason, but I guess that's part of the business of politics. And in business like us, you can tell them what you think right back, but not so. But it does, and I brought it up before, when people get up for public comment and they say things that are not true, it seems though it should be rebutted right then rather than at the end of it. Could be, half hour later somebody will go, well, that wasn't right, whatever to it. So I don't know, Brian.
I think sometimes Lauren Johnston, you kind of play fact checker in chief occasionally. I mean, I'm sitting there like, I don't know what they just said. That doesn't sound totally right. I'm like taking some notes, and then all of a sudden, sometimes it is immediately, like a minute later, you're like, well, actually, City Council, we just did pass this and we did that. So, that's your answer. I don't know if you have people feeding you all this information.
A little bit of both.
But I'm impressed.
We have some chats going back and forth. A lot of the directors are either in the back of the room or listening. And
so they make you look more knowledgeable than you are sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, also it helps. I've been at the city for like 17 years.
Indeed. Actually, I was the one who gave that presentation, Mr. Mayor. And I remember exactly what those numbers are.
Well, overall, we need growth. We need housing. My big concern is, and you hear more and more, how younger people aren't having kids. And we have you look at you look down the line of how our labor force is going to be greatly worldwide. Even like China and Germany have serious population problems where young people aren't having babies.
This
anymore.
This is where you go in the conversation on Valentine's Day. I mean, this is terrible.
Go make babies. That's my message on this, because we need them in the future, and and that's the whole thing. But we got to have housing for them. So why aren't they having babies? Well, it's a financial part of it is a big thing. Everybody's you got two people working, and they and then to raise kids and daycare. Well, Lauren, how old are your kids? 3 and 7. Okay, so you can, and here you are more than a full-time employee, and in raising kids, it's. I don't know how people do it. I really don't. And
a good support system. I have a wonderful husband, and our family is here, and a good support system.
Well, I mean, with daycare and things like that, it's like over the top. And so we talk about all these rates going up, and we talk about impact fees going up. We talk about all that. It's like, the retirees are crying that I'm on a fixed income. I'm crying for the young people that have never had a chance. And it just keeps being further and further from reach with inflation and things like that.
David, to tie that back to our main conversation today about utilities, is that you need strong utility service to attract economic development. And we need the economic development to help our current citizens with to reduce their tax base, but also to help keep our kids here, right? We need a place for them to work, so they want to stay here in the community. And that's one of the things we struggle with. But to tie it all together, you have to have the infrastructure to be able to support that next business that wants to come.
Yeah, somebody could come in with a great, clean manufacturing, pay a lot of jobs. There's only one problem. We may or may not have water capacity for you, wastewater capacity for you. We're kind of waiting and seeing. We're trying to get this passed. That's kind of it could be a deal breaker for somebody.
That's definitely a reality.
Mm-hmm. And I feel for the developers, I really do, because they're doing their best to do what they do. They develop, and there should be an appreciation for developers, not damning them all the time because of all this. That's just kind of dumb. They're the ones that put out the risk and put out the time. They're the ones that are investing millions and millions of dollars into our community so we can have a nice community. And so I hope everything works out with that, because we do have a beautiful community right now. And I see some of these, plans and developments and the excitement of what West County can bring to us, the whole new frontier and everything. We live in a great place, but we have to have the infrastructure in place. Otherwise, it's all for nothing. So with that, we do have a public hearing coming up, right? So let's talk about that.
March 4th.
Okay, March 4th. And so people listening right now go, why would I come to that public hearing? What would I learn?
You'll learn the importance of the major capital projects that are attributed to the rate increase. We're going to give a bigger picture about water and wastewater capacity and why that's important. And then you'll hear the numbers. And really the why is that we know our residents want us to fix our infrastructure, and this is our plan to do so.
Okay. All right. Very good. So be aware, understand, don't just be emotionally reactionary and start, saying things that aren't true.
Well, and David, I think the mayor was really great a couple meetings ago whenever he said, can you give us a little bit of grace, because they inherited these decisions, and it is a very hard decision, and it's a very hard balance, and nobody wants rates to go up. Nobody. But also we want to fix our infrastructure. So kudos to the city council that are making the hard decisions, because it is extremely difficult.
Okay. Well, thank you, Lauren, for all you do. So hang in there tough. Okay. We need you. Final words from Jason DiLorenzo, our Palm Coast City Chief of Staff.
Yeah. Thanks for having us. This is really complicated, right? There's a lot of pieces here. It's a really big number that scares folks. we're trying to get out the information as much as possible. Go back and watch Tuesday's YouTube and come to the hearing and learn as much about it as you can as City Council, makes these difficult decisions.
And people that are listening now and go to them in that, explain to your neighbors and coworkers and things that, this isn't incompetence in the city and all these sort of things. This is the reality of growth and it's just something that we have to do. So
Brittany's got a good plan for putting out some videos about it the next couple of weeks, and there's lots of reference materials on our website.
All right. Brittany, she's sitting in the back there on the love seat on Valentine. Anyway, so thank you, Brittany.
Hoping that she doesn't get made to come up to the mic.
No, she loves it. Anyway, but we don't have time for her. All right, Carl Cody. All right, our engineering guy here with stormwater and everything. Final words.
Probably just want to touch upon that, the three components of what we're doing is, one, to maintain and rehab our existing infrastructure, two, address our capacity growth, concerns to set us up for not only the remaining ITT lots, but for the other developments that have been approved and to move forward. And then operating costs, we're just like everyone else, chemical costs, electric costs, all those have gone up. Just to treat our water over 5 years, those gone up 36%. To treat the same amount of water, per 1,000 gallons. So, we've done change. We've looked at all our different revenues, procedures, efficiencies, and we're really at the last resort. So we've looked at everything we can do to pare down the budget and be more economical and make the best use of our dollars. And this is where we are today to try and move forward.
Okay. All right, Brian, final words?
Well, I think the climate of this whole situation is a lot different than it was 2+ years ago, because now you have a couple people who were just elected, Ty Miller and Mike Norris as mayor, who ran on infrastructure. We want to fix the infrastructure, and they were voted in. And you also have the state now who is saying you have to do something, otherwise you're going to get fined more. So I think that the climate is basically ready for this to happen. Whether it's, we'll see as the city council and here's more discussion, and if there are other alternatives, who knows? But I think that in that sense, it's kind of an exciting time to actually get everything done from the utility perspective. That's pretty exciting. So anyway. Happy Valentine's Day.
And you're excited. I still can't believe you're excited about that. But okay, Brian, we got to get it done. Okay, and business is business. Thank you, Lauren, Jason, Carl, Brittany, and everybody back at City Hall. Appreciate it. Have a good weekend and be safe.
Kids screaming, phone ringing, dog barking at the mail.